Hello and welcome to the 5 Minute Call, the podcast that takes a deep dive into the stories of the people that make theatre happen.
This week we're talking to the wonderful Rachel John, who has had an incredible career in musical theatre spanning nearly 20 years.
Rachel shares her inspiring journey from working as a secretary to unexpectedly landing her first role in The Lion King, and then going on to star in major West End productions like Memphis and Hamilton.
She discusses the joys and challenges of being a swing, the pressures of playing lead roles, and how she has grown to accept her authentic voice both on stage and off stage.
Members of the company, this is your 5-minute call. All beginners, please make your way to the stage. This is your 5-minute call, your 5-minute call.
Rachel, thank you so much for joining us on the 5 Minute Call. We are so delighted to have you here. I'm super excited because we've known each other how many years?
Eons. We beautifully happened upon each other during Memphis. So 2014.
Okay.
And we're now in 2024.
Okay.
So 2014. And yes, it was a very interesting process because I was an alternate in the show.
That's right.
Playing Felicia, and it was the John Robbins, the wonderful John Robbins, that was like, you know, you should come and see Claire because I visit Claire. But where I'd seen you before that was I had an audition for Les Mis, the most random thing ever, out of the blue, I had no idea why. Went in for the first call, and then Cameron's office rang me and were like, we'd love you to see Claire and work with Claire. So it started with that audition, and then I ended up in Memphis, so we reconnected with that, and then the Hamilton journey began. So that's why I know. But I feel like I've just always had you. I hear your voice in my head many times. In many an audition room, yes.
It's lovely.
Such a great voice.
I think there are pills you can take for it. So we're jumping way ahead. Can you tell us your story? How do you come to be doing what you're doing?
Oh my goodness. Do you know what is bizarre? I was thinking about this coming in on the train this morning. Next year will be 20 years I've been sort of doing this, which is crazy to say, because I never had a dream, a passion, or a thought about musical theatre at all. Yes, so that is the secret. I never thought about that in my life. I am the daughter of immigrants. My parents came from Trinidad in the early 70s to come here. My mum was invited to do nursing. My dad came as an electrician. So my parents got here maybe about 1973, 72, 73. And straight away I was immersed as in the womb and out of the womb into church. I was in a Pentecostal, or some people call it evangelical or charismatic setting. So music is a central focus of how we express love for God in worship, in, you know, lots of tambourines and really, you know, loud expressive music, and also being part of a Trinidadian culture, part of really loud music, oral stories. So all of it was just loud and expressive. And that's how I learned to kind of communicate feeling and express. And some people probably now call that acting through song. I didn't know that church taught you about acting through song, connecting lyric with song and intent and that choral thing. And so I just grew up in church singing. My mum sang, all my aunts and uncles sing or play an instrument on my mum's side. My dad's not musical so much, so no rhythm at all. But I grew up at church with that environment. And no one ever said to me, this is music, this is what you should do, or this is how you should absorb it. Nobody told me about getting it wrong or right. I just remember this lady at Sunday school telling me, you know, you sing with your ears. I'd never heard anything like that. Sing with your ears.
Incredibly liberating.
So she said, stand here in the middle of, you're an alto, stand here. Didn't even know what that was, because they mixed the children's choir and the adults choir. So once a month we got to sing with the adults, which was great. And she said, stand here, you're an alto, but sing with your ears. Don't sing until you listen to what's happening. And so I just kind of learning, it's just singing was just everything, and music was just everything. And then also, I mean, a child of the 80s, you sang in assembly. You grew up singing in assembly every morning. So you were, you know, started with the recorder. So you just learned all of these things by osmosis, were kind of just, I suppose, fanning the flame of some sort of talent that I didn't really even think about. until, funnily enough, the BBC came to our church. They were filming something. It was Why Don't You? That's what it's. See, I'm so my age now. And I was featured on Why Don't You Join a Choir? And so they came to film and we did a little thing. I was singing a little bit of a lead, but it still wasn't anything that I thought, this is something I'm going to do. I thought church was really part of the singing thing. And I thought I was going to be a teacher. That's what I was thinking about and investing in. But I was forced to sing in the choir. I was forced. Because this woman said, I've had a dream about you and you've got a voice and it's going to be all over the world. That's what she told my mum. And I was like, I was about 7. I was like, I have no passion for this at all. I liked singing, but I didn't think about myself as a singer. And that was that. I think I went to college. I did everything I wanted to do, went to uni. It was kind of drama a bit. I liked the acting, but never thought about the singing until I got to uni. I did a drama and English degree. And my boyfriend at the time, he played the saxophone and he was like, you're actually really, really good. Am I? Yeah. You should go to this audition. There's this audition in Manchester and it was for The Lion King. And it was open auditions. And I said, well, I don't think I should be singing in shows because, again, the reason that shows weren't really a place for me is because I'd never seen myself in shows. I liked things and my favourite musicals were Sound of Music. Loved watching that on TV. But never thought, I thought it was this space where you were either Judy Garland or Julie Andrews. And I was like, that's who I, like when they sing, I feel something. And that was the same connection with church. I was like, it's the feeling something and seeing something, like something, I don't know, something about that excites me. But musical theatre was never a thing because when I watched it, I was like, none of these people look like me and none of the stories are things that I really know. I enjoy it, but somewhere over there. But yes, he made me go to this audition, went, probably sang something terrible because he'd printed some sheet music that probably just had some sort of like saxophone dots on it. It probably wasn't even anything they could play. But I think I probably sang like The Greatest Love of All or something like that. And Clement Ishmael, who is still the international MD for Lion King all over the world, kind of just went, yeah, you're okay. I don't know, it's a bit rough and I don't know where this is, but we'll see what we think. Went to London, did those auditions, nothing came of it. They were like, you're a good singer, but you're rough and you're not really for shows, which was fine. I was like, oh, it was great. Got an office job, I was a PA for a bit, I was a secretary for a bit, customer services. I loved it. I loved being with people and I loved solving things and I loved singing in the choir and that was that. And then got a phone call about a year later sitting at my desk from Pippa Alien. I was just like, who is this? Because those days when you had a mobile phone, you only had a few numbers in it because not everyone had a mobile, do you know what I mean? So this random number came up thinking, who's this? She's like, hi, it's Pippa, darling. Who's Pippa? I'm thinking, who's Pippa? Just getting out this, writing down things, just writing, secretary brain, just writing, yeah. Put the phone down and I was like, oh my gosh, this is an audition for Disney to work in the theme park. Wow. In Paris. It was just, it was so random. And, you know, to cut a very long story short, the auditions then happened to be across the road from where I was working in a little church hall, because I was working at the Royal Pharmaceutical Society at that point. A little hall across the road, and I ended up at these auditions in my lunch break in suit and 9 yards in suit, singing a bit of Rafiki, and that was that. And 2 weeks later, they were like, "We really like you. We're starting this show. It's in Paris. There's 5 shows a day. It's the first time we've ever done this, and we'd really like you to come, but you're like a cover." Now, let me give a bit of context. I have never done musical theatre. I didn't know what a cover was. I just knew that I could sing a little bit, and I was in my early 20s and I thought, I'm moving to Paris. I was like, right, how do we get there? What happens? Yeah, and 2 weeks later I was living in Paris, working in a theme park, covering this role. But I think just my secretary brain was like, if I make enough notes and I know enough people and I know enough people from enough departments, and I knew I could hold a harmony. I knew I could hold a tune and I could sing a harmony. So I said, if I figure this out, this might be okay. I might be all right. And I remember the first night going on, covering and going on and thinking, what is this really? What have I actually signed up to? 'Cause there's a whole audience and there's this, but I thought I've done this. I've been at church with people. So people are not the problem. Just, do you know enough? Do you know enough and are you enjoying it? And I think that's where the bug started. I was like, oh, this is, wow, telling stories with song and character. And I think I'd like this. I think I do. So I lived there for just over a year in Paris. Had that most amazing time working for Disney. And then Pippa rang again and I auditioned for Town. And then, I started with The Lion King in Town. So that's a very, that is like a, that
What
is
did your family think of that?
I think as well, because they'd come across as immigrants, I think they were a little bit like, yeah, if you want to try it, try it. And my dad has always said, have a go. If it doesn't work, you can always come home. He's always said that. Yeah. So in true immigrant style, the day when I moved to Paris on the Eurostar, my dad cooked, we sat on the train and just ate. We just had this massive supper. It was like 10 family members and me going. I was like, yeah, that's how we do it. We all show up together and they settled me in, and it just, the support was just from them. I mean, I have to thank my parents because I wouldn't be here without them. They never said, what's this theatre thing? It's not a proper job. I think the idea of, I think that thing of kind of with your faith, it's kind of like gifting. So they were just a bit like, well, if this is the gift, then it will make room for you and things we'll see the fruit of it. And are you okay? And we'll just work that out. So they went, just take it one job at a time. If you like it, you do. If you don't, you're a secretary. You can do that forever. Yeah. And you can do your teaching degree. And so they were never like, don't do it. I think we were just all really shocked at the speed, because it's not something I prayed for or asked for or wanted or desired. But somewhere in the middle of like these jobs, I was like, I think I like this. And I think I like the feeling of working in a team in this way, because I've done teamwork before. It's weird. I just felt like all the skills were transferable.
Yes.
Which they are.
They are.
Yeah.
Very much so, yeah.
Because I was like, it's teamwork, it's team building, we're all working towards one goal, there's a deadline. All these things made sense to me, but I don't think I really had a chance to sort of stop and go, right, this is theatre, these are the things you need to understand, this is the vocal health that you need to employ. So my voice was everywhere. Some days were brilliant, and then got to the middle of the week and I'm like, it's gone. I don't understand. Like, I've not done anything wrong. I've done the exact same thing. So why am I tired? So there was a lot of working it out.
Big role at that age. That's a big thing.
Yeah. It was like Rafiki, and there were 5 a day. There were 25-minute shows. They're still doing it now. There were 5 a day, and they'd kind of swing you what you do, maybe 3 a day and then do 2, but you do every other one. It was weird, but brilliant. People loved it. But again, it was a lot of failing forwards.
Yeah. Which
a ton of it.
Arguably is the best way, really. If we're not failing and we're not learning, I think we're not evolving as much as we could as an artist. But the speed at which that has happened for you is immense.
And I'm still here. People are still going, should we hire her? Yeah, maybe. They still let me keep turning up and doing stuff and going, like, maybe I'll just show up and try and fulfill the brief of whoever I'm working for, and always serve the audience or try and serve each other through it all. Yeah. Because I've always thought to myself, it's so much bigger than the show. And I think maybe that's the church thing as well, because it was always so much bigger than you get up and sing. It's who are you serving and how are we all in one mind at the moment about this one thing? What are we moving towards? And I think because the way I experienced music growing up, there were never any don't do that, or your voice can't sound like that, or that's too much vib, or that's too expressive. I think that environment of like church where music's free, you can just carry on as much as you want, pick up the instruments. I picked up drums at one point as well at church, because they were like, just try things. Looking back now, I think that was the best way to learn, because nobody told me you can't.
That's an incredible education.
Yeah, what
incredible,
environment.
And hugely rare, I would imagine.
Yeah, and no one said this is your type. Like sometimes I've heard people like they go to drama school, they go to other things, they go, you shouldn't sing like that. That's not your type. That's not where you should be. If you sing more like this person, you'll get more jobs. And I think because I bypassed all of that being put in a box, like vocally or whatever, I just then entered each job going, okay, this is me, but what would you like? Can we have less vibrato? Okay. Can we have, okay. So, because no one ever said, Rachel, you shouldn't sound like that before I'd entered. So I think maybe I don't know, I'd bypassed. Do you know what I'm trying to say? Bypassed that and just enjoyed music.
I think it's so wonderful to come from that position. I would have loved when I was younger to have had that much immersion in music and community, and to feel a part of what you must have felt as a kid in that environment. I can't even begin to imagine. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
But then to take that, I need to go and find that woman that you said when you were age 7.
I know.
I need a little prediction like that, because that is
It's insane. I was like, what? Who?
Wow.
And Mum was kind of like, people. It is in an atmosphere where people say things and stuff. She's like, look, if it's true, it's fine. If it's not, don't worry about it. You'll figure it out. But if it is something that's true, then it will unfold itself for you.
Yeah.
So I think there was no pressure to fulfill some sort of brief, and then I could just enjoy music along the way. And I have to say, I've always been a music fan. I think that's a really important thing, is even if you're on a job or you're not on a job, like, don't lose the fandom. Like, there are artists that I just enjoy that has nothing to do with I'm listening to this because I'm doing this show. Like, just enjoy it. Like, I still sing in the shower. I think those things are so important, because don't lose the fun of what music is, because when you are working, it can be quite concentrated and there can be kind of pressure to fulfill those things. But I think because of my upbringing, no one ever said don't do it. So I just enjoyed music, and it was very immersive. And you learn songs at Sunday school, and like I say, assembly bangers, that shapes you as well. If you know the words. Now you grow up, you go, oh, those are the lyrics. I don't know. Just singing things that made sense, right? Yeah. So that was the beginning.
Amazing. So when you were then immersed in this theatre industry, and you are being asked less vibrato, or can you do this here, or can you do that there? Did that just feel like, oh yeah, I must have that in my toolkit? Or was that a steep learning curve?
That was a steep learning curve, because it was something really hard to switch off. Because obviously with gospel and R&B artists and stuff that you listen to, that's who, there is mimicking at that point, isn't there? You mimic that person. Or, when I grew up in church with people like Misha Paris and stuff like that. So you're listening to a style of vibrato, a style of R&B singing. So that was a steep learning curve. And again, I've always just surrounded myself by people that are smarter than me. So I was like, what should I do? And then someone said, you should get someone to work with you vocally. Start taking some sort of vocal classes, and different people were suggested. Why don't you try working with this person, and they can help with your voice? And so that's how I started to learn about it, to go, I can't struggle with this. There's always people out there. Again, I think the secretary brain, there's always someone who knows more. So why don't I just reach out and ask for help and support? And it kind of works.
I mean, it sounds like you're very, well, I know this from working with you anyway. You are so in touch with your curiosity and a willingness to take on more, like learn more, go deeper into it. It sounds like that attitude helped you survive what other people might have found really uncomfortable, actually. Sounds like that was a protective factor.
I like you said curiosity, so I just think I'm nosy. But you're so kind to me. But I think but curiosity is really cool, because I think you have to keep that, because that just keeps you bubbling and keeps you alive and keeps you growing, so you don't end up stagnant in whatever that is, whether it's a role or you just want to keep moving forward and keep bringing life to it. So thank you, curiosity. I'll take that. So anyone who said I'm nosy, I'm actually just curious. And Claire said it, and Claire knows what she's talking about. So curiosity. It was a very interesting musical theatre. It was very interesting. Like, from secretary to musical theatre, it was different kind of teamwork. And I was like, oh, this is how this works. And there's 8 of these a week. And I think I learned a lot about just taking the rest when I needed it. So I think the first few years it was quite boring, because people were like, oh, the show's finished, let's go out. I think I'm tired. I think I'm just going to go home because I used to go to bed about 9:30. Sorry, I'm back to that now. Going to bed at 9:30 and kind of preparing your week and jumping on the tube and planning your life in a way that made sense and having a whole weekend, having 2 days off, woohoo, which just didn't exist anymore. So I think I just tried to listen to my body as much as I could and go, I think you need to not go out tonight and maybe just rest a little bit. And just thinking about what I was eating and drinking and stuff like that. I was like, oh, this doesn't agree. I can't eat a whole bar of dairy milk before I try and sing Rafiki.
Sadly.
Do you know what I mean? Yeah. Whatever that is. And different people's bodies react differently. But I was like, this makes me feel claggy and weird. And I think that's a no. But I took those risks though. I would eat stuff. Sorry, this is probably not the right thing to say. But people just go, you can't eat that, you can't have dairy, you can't have blah, blah. And I thought, well, I'm going to try it and see what works with my body, what is fueling my body for these things. And, a lot of times people were right. So I should have listened. Yeah, we won't have that. But yeah.
Did you feel well met by the other people in the cast, perhaps, who were more experienced? Were they welcoming?
Yeah, actually, with Lion King, definitely so. I think because Lion King's such a mix of people who are very experienced and have no experience at all. I think because Lion King kind of welcomes that you have a mix of ages and experience. So it becomes this family really, really quickly. And I remember on day one, the first person I met was Alexia Kadim. That's the first person I met on day one. And she'd left and come back as Nala. And I met her on day one sort of thing going, oh my gosh, this is the first West End show I've done and I'm a swing and I had no agent because I didn't have an agent for years because I'd come out of, I didn't know you needed one. It's just bizarre. I didn't know you needed one. So I was just negotiating my own contracts and I didn't know that's what you needed. So I had 100% of my own. I mean, who knows what they were paying me. But I didn't know you needed all these things. And on day one, I met her and she was kind of like, welcome, this is brilliant. She's like, do you have an accountant? Do you have an agent? So those questions straight away, I was like, oh, do I need an accountant? Yes, you do. Yes. And, this is the way the show works, this is the way the schedule works. And so it was family straight away. But I think they fostered that environment because so many people come into the show were immigrants, had left home and come specifically to London to do this show from South Africa and Trinidad and Brazil. And so everyone was kind of like, okay, we've got to hug each other because everyone's missing their family. But you're in this incredible show. The only way to get through, I think that for me, again, was back to that community. The only way to get through is to kind of pull together. So people really did welcome me. And people I spoke to on day one, I still speak to now. For example, this is going to be a really funny story. One of the first little Simbas that I met on the first day that I got there was Johnny Bishop.
No.
And so, do you know what I mean? All this connection. Yeah. I met him on day one, and because my family are from Trinidad and he'd first come from Trinidad, he was 10. And I was kind of like, oh, he's just so full of beans and really talented, quite shy, very quiet, same as Johnny is now. And we met on day one, and it was only, this is fast forwarding, when we got to Hamilton, I was kind of like, this is the second time we've worked together, but I've not stopped communicating with you all these years because that's the family that it can kind of foster. So it was very special, and it was more, as I say, it was more than the show because these beautiful people were helping you along. Because there's, I'm glad I got an accountant. I'm telling you, that is serious. So yeah, I'm happy for all that help from.
So Paris, then to London to do it in London, and then what happens after that?
Oh my gosh, what happens after that? So I was in the show as a swing, and I was covering Rafiki, Shenzi, and just standbying for stuff like Sarabi and stuff like that. So that in total was about 3.5, 4 years. Loved it, bought a little house and just took my time and kind of, I loved being a swing. I cannot tell you how much I enjoyed being a swing. Just coming on, joining, doing a little thing.
Tell us a bit. I don't think we've had anybody talk about being a swing.
Yeah.
Also, I totally get that on instinct just because of what you said about your background and how you would just jump into a song here or a song there in church. So yeah, let's dive into that.
Yeah, swinging was, first of all, thank God for the internet now, because if at that point I'd had the internet and I could have gone, what is a swing? Because again, I had no agent. So they're like, you're coming in as a swing with some covers. And I was like, what on earth is a swing? So I was just thinking, well, maybe it's like a pendulum swing, like you do a bit of this there and then a bit of that there. But when I got in and realised, okay, so you cover these 4 women vocally. Okay, so that I was like, right, I can map this. Sorry for the trees, but it's just tons of paper because you created your quote unquote Bible of each woman, where she moved and what she sang. And I just really enjoyed it because harmonies, again, were like my thing. I was like, I can do this. I'd love a harmony. Yes. And then you are working with other swings, again, that are more experienced, going, you need to be here. Do you know your backstage track? Are you aware of where you should be before you go on stage? Because your backstage track is far more important than your on-stage track. That's where you can map, where can I put bottles of water? When can I use the toilet? When can I reference my book again to go, this is the scene that was weird last night. Like, is it this or is it, should I go that way or that? Okay, cool. Is this a quick change? Is this not? So swing life, I think because I started at the harder end of theatre with swinging and covering, this part now of my career can enjoy a lot more because you're over-prepared. Like, swing life, I'm telling you, if I knew it was that hard, I probably at that point would have gone, no, I'm not cut out for this. Because sometimes you're split tracking. Like you go on and start as one person. They go, oh no, Shenzi's gone off. And you're like, wait, I'm in this flow. Like, what do I do now? So I think because I started that harder end, I think swings are so undervalued and so underpaid. I don't want to moan.
I'm with you. It boggles my mind what swings do.
Yes.
It boggles my mind. Yeah. I don't know how it's possible for a brain to take in that detail. Also, let's be honest here. I have difficulty following an exercise class and mirroring it from here. Like sitting and watching rehearsal and then translating that into being on the stage in those places.
Yes.
That boggles my mind, just that alone, even if it was just one part.
Yeah, and I feel like now, even when I go into shows and talk to other swings, like younger people that are coming up and starting, I always say to them, like, we just had pieces of paper. We didn't have video phones. We couldn't record a show and watch it. So if you have these resources, take them. Like, you have it. You can actually just go up to someone and just go, can you plonk this for me? Yeah. We didn't have that. Just learn this track and keep practicing every single day. How does that fit in? And clashing chords and all these things that you're like, oh my goodness, I don't know how my body's going to do it. But again, the failing forward. Getting it wrong means, and that's so vulnerable. It's so vulnerable when you have a show. And as you know, a show is a moving, living thing. So no matter what you craft, 2-3 weeks in, it's slightly shifted a bit or slightly moved a little bit. And you come in as a swing going, oh, you should all be here. And they're like, oh, don't dictate to us because we've got our show. You're joining the thing. So it's being that malleable as well and going, okay, this is, all right, I can settle into this a little bit because this is the show now. It has moved a little bit. But I say now to swings, every resource you have, whatever you have, use that. And if you are going to get it wrong, I think let's just normalise. It will not be a perfect show and you will get stuff a little bit out, even when you're covering. A line will be the other way around or not, or because your brain is required to do so many things and you're pushing past anxiety or fatigue or, let's just do this quick dress run in the day and then you're going on in the evening. It requires so much of you that I salute swings and dance captains, on stage dance captains, on stage. It's crazy to be in the picture, but you can't just sit out and watch it. So I'm glad I started at the more difficult end of what theatre can be because it was so tricky, but so rewarding when it's right. When it's good, it's rewarding. They just need more money and more time and a lot more support. And from the cast as well, because what they're doing is really hard. And you can feel quite lonely. It can be quite a lonely road because you're not in the team all the time. So I learned a lot of that along the way. So now when I'm in shows, I try to share my pearls of wisdom and go, you're going to be all right. Some days are going to feel not as brilliant, but you did it. You got out there, you faced another day. file and delete and go on to the next show, because you at least with us, we have the opportunity to go back out again.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that's my salutes to swigs and covers all over the world.
So admire that.
Yeah.
I do not have the constitution to be a swing.
Especially when there's loads of props and you're responsible. That's
it
another
does
thing.
sound like the living embodiment of many people's, night before the
Yes.
show nightmare.
Yes.
I'm on stage and I don't know what's happening next. I don't.
No.
Should I be doing that? Should I? It just does sound like a living nightmare.
It does. And I got some
But I'm sure that's very exhilarating
should
when you get it right.
No,
It's a wonderful
Yes.
job. Do be a swing.
Do it. But I got some very good advice once from a really, really seasoned actor who said, you're not doing a show, you're doing one scene at a time. I was like, what? I was thinking, what's he talking about? I was like, yeah, but I need to think about this thing in Act 2. And he's like, you've not got through Act 1, Scene 1. Just breathe into Act 1, Scene 1. Come off, read, look at something. Now I can go back on. He said, just it's scene by scene. It's not a whole show. Because if you think about the whole thing, you will make mistakes that you'd never made before, because you're overwhelming yourself. So he said, just do yourself a bit of justice. Just go one scene at a time. And I've never forgotten that from the first day of Lion King. He's like, you're just doing one scene at a time. That's it. He's like, and there's no problem bringing down your score, and there's no problem having your scenes in the week. There's no problem with it at all. And even with Memphis, I remember being thrown on at some point. And I asked my dresser, I was like, do you mind just keeping them scenes in? She had a little pinafore. And I just just ripped the scenes out. And I was like, can you just pop them in there? And she's like, I said, yeah, because I'm going to have a quick change, but I can actually just reference it. There's 2 words I don't know which way round, because it's not, I don't think that's failure at all. And again, I really want to shout out all of our backstage crew, everybody who facilitates the show, because everyone's part of the show. If you don't have beautiful and supportive dressers as well going, you're cool, I can mop your brow here, I can figure that out for you there, do you want me to put your lines here? We're all one team trying to make things work. So I'm shouting out everybody, because that's how shows work. They work with us being gracious to one another and helping to serve one another, because everyone wants to make one brilliant show. That's all we all want to do. Everybody wants that, whether you're seen or not seen. So I'm very grateful to all the dressers who've carried around lip balm and water and throat sweets, so you don't even know if they work, and bits of seed. You don't know. Your just mouth is so dry and just trying to do anything with the anxiety. But I'm very grateful to them, because they have shaped and crafted the characters that you are then enabled to go out and do. So
We are fully on board with that on this show. We want to talk to everybody from every side of it.
Yeah,
I think
absolutely.
it's so important, isn't it? Because it is a very performance audience facing industry, if that makes sense. Like, the audience never really truly see what happens 2 meters behind that curtain.
No.
Yeah.
Like, they literally, that is it. They don't get any insight. And realistically, the people on the stage are at most 50% of the production, which isn't to downplay what they're doing, but it is to say that there are so many other things that go on. So I think it's so important to shout that out and to
Absolutely.
raise awareness.
I mean, I did see a funny little video the other day, I think from the Shrek tour or something. Someone was filming one of their quick changes, and I just watched it about 5 times because I was so intrigued. I was like, yes, we need more of this. We need to show that it is, wigs, and it is makeup, and it is all of those things that make you these quick changes that I'm like, it's 40 seconds long, and all, everyone has to be on it. It is like Formula One.
Yes. Yeah.
It's the exact thing.
You're the
of
vehicle.
changing those tyres.
Yes. Yeah.
And that's why, again, another amazing actor said to me, anytime you end up in a quick change in any show, you ask them, am I the earth or am I the sun? Ask your dresser what works for them. Do you want me to rotate you, or do you want to rotate me? And I find like a lot of, dressers really enjoy that, because you're saying, you're not putting something on me, like, how do I facilitate?
Yes.
Do you want me to, is it easier for me to step into the thing?
Yeah.
So I always just take time during dress or tech, or whenever you've got that and your dresser is, and you've got a quick change, just have that conversation. Would this work better for you? These buttons are weird. I've just done that in the show I just did. I said, look, this thing's going to be quick. Should we place these with poppers? That would probably make it better. Are these clip-on earrings or push-ins? Do you want me to turn? And she's like, thank you for asking that. She's like, actually, if you just stay where you are, I can pull things on you and then you can turn afterwards. So I think have those conversations, be really responsible for your own track. Every show, check where your props are. It's no one else's responsibility. Sorry, this is me being old school. Check that prop desk. Are they where they're meant to be? Because that's your pre-show check as well. I'm old school. I think that's what we were taught at Lion King. Like your track is your responsibility. So you're working with your stage management team. You're working with them because sometimes things can get forgotten or it's in a pocket. It didn't come out of the pocket the night before. All of those things, I think, help us work together and make a show better. And then you're one community. It's not a blame game thing. It's going, all right, how do we facilitate how we want this show to run? And everyone feels included and special because, like you say, a lot of time people don't see what's happening just there in the wing. Sometimes I'm grateful they don't see what's happening in the wing. Yeah. People try to distract you when they're meant to be working hard. But it is a community thing. I think we're coming back to the same thing, really, aren't we? It really is community.
This episode is sponsored by Vocality, a specially formulated blend of tea for professional voice users. Each ingredient has been carefully selected to help you soothe and take care of your voice. Vocality is naturally caffeine-free, suitable for vegans, and does not contain any artificial flavours or colours. Vocality is the secret to vocal clarity in a cup. There's hugely valuable insight of... we haven't really had this insight before as to, we've had... What's your warm-up routine? What's your technique? But we haven't... What do you do when you're stood there and you need to change what you're wearing? And I think everything you've just said is so amazing and genius to ask the question about who rotates who.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Like, that's a game changer for me. And I'm not even performing anymore. But it's just things that you're like,
that's
don't
a really
think
small
about.
example of what I think we're trying to do more and more in general as a society, which is, I work this way, how do you work?
Right.
Yes.
How can we make that happen together? Rather than, I work this way and you have to work my way, and why don't you work my way? And that's really frustrating, you're sacked. Like,
that part.
Escalated
quickly.
Don't work for me. But just being able to say, how does this work for you? How can we come together and find a way that, because we work really differently from one another, okay, but we still are working towards the same goal as you're talking about.
True.
I think it's really crucial.
And I think being gracious, because we don't know people's show history. This is another completely different story. We don't know whether, I'm coming into this show, I've not had the brightest or best experience before with being dressed, or the dresser's not had the best time with dressing a particular actor or artist. So I think when you start from that clean slate and go, actually, the goal is the same. We just want the show to go well, smoothly. I want to look brilliant. If there's any way to eliminate any stress, and then we just know. So in a week where there are 9 shows or however many shows there are, people are a bit tired, tech, dress, all of these crazy things. Because we're in a system, we know the function of how this change works. We can actually just enjoy ourselves now. We're not fighting each other or what is that? So yeah, I'm the person, curiosity. I like to ask all these questions. Like, does that work for you? Like, should we try that? Or actually, we tried that last night and it went a bit wrong. And then be gracious. The first few shows are not the show yet. They're not going to work. It does just throw that out. It won't work. You'll be like, oh, do I cross under the stage and come out? There's so many things to work out. So just be gracious that it will come in time. And then there'll be that show where you go, God, that was seamless. Like, that made sense to me. But I think communication's key, and just be responsible for your track and enjoy whatever that is, because when you're responsible for a prop, there's so many horror stories about forgetting props, not having a prop. And you think to yourself, if I'd have just checked, when I went down for warm-up, if I'd have just checked that, or if I'd have just gone down before beginners and been early, I could have just had a little look, and we end up with a nice show report rather than rather than being flagged in show reports for other things, stuff. Whoopsie daisy. But yeah, I think that's the key. I think it's the community, and then I think people really enjoy the job then, because everyone's doing what they want to do and making it work. But I think the onus is on us to go, all right, how can we make this flow, and how can we like enable our community more? Because we are a community for whatever protracted amount of time that is, be it 6 weeks or a year. This is my community now. How do we make that work? Yeah, that's kind of how I feel. In my years of doing this now, I'm like, this could be easy. And I was saying to you both earlier, this should be fun. It should be a release, and we should enjoy ourselves. But I think those things help to take the stress out of it a little bit more and just give you a bit more ownership. So when the fatigue or the anxiety, it's a job today comes in, you're in control, I think, a bit more.
You've mentioned a couple of times, so we've done this in previous episodes, your track. It's a term that we've heard a lot, but we've never actually explained it to anybody, which is fine.
Just using shorthand now.
Because we know what it is.
Yeah.
But explain from your perspective, what's your track?
Yeah, so my track is basic. I think the most simplest way is the track is, what do I do? What does Rachel do as actor, as human, from the start of the show to the end? How does that flow? That is my track. I'm responsible for, when do I turn up on stage? What do I sing? What do I wear? What do I eat? If there's food in a show. So that's my track, and I'm just responsible for that. Obviously, if you're a swing, you're responsible for multiple tracks. I suppose even, I wonder if it came from the way that you layer music, because you layer music in tracks, maybe it's that. But that's basically what it is. What do I do from the start to the finish of a show?
So when do you make the move from swing to having your own role?
So I finished with Lion King at the Lyceum, and again Pippa rang. Hello dear, it's Pippa. Hello Pippa, how are you?
Still no agent.
Still no agent.
Still no agent. Okay.
Sorry,
Just so we keep
this
up
is
with
like
this.
4 years later, still no agent.
Still hasn't twigged.
Still haven't got an agent. And she said, we're auditioning for the Asian tour of Lion King. It's the first time we've been out to Asia. We're going to Taiwan, and would you like to audition for it? There's a role for Shenzi. Would you like to audition? I thought, maybe I could do that. That would be quite nice. So auditioned and didn't hear anything for weeks and weeks and weeks, and then got a phone call to say, we'd love for you to come out as Shenzi. And that was the shift from swing to just doing a principal role.
So it's a real sort of growing up process in that show.
Giant growing up process, yeah. Then packing my bags again. So I packed my bags and gone to Paris, and then come back to London, and then packed my bags and gone off to Taiwan, which was just insane. I was like, I'm now on the other side of the world.
Wow.
But got an agent, I'd like to say.
Okay.
Yay! I love agents. Don't get me wrong. I've got the best agent in the world at the moment. Love an agent. But I did get an agent because, again, another friend in the show said to me, it's great that you haven't got an agent when you're in London, and that's fine, but you're going abroad. Yeah. You need to make sure someone's sorting out where you're going to sleep, what you're going to eat, how you're going to fly there, like all of those things. I think it's best to get an agent now. And funny enough, my agent was in last night when you were on for Rafiki, and she hasn't stopped talking about you. Do you want to call my agent? And I did. Called, and before I knew it, I had an offer for a job and an agent like the same week. So I was like, I don't know how this works. And my first agent was Janice Tilsley, who passed away quite a little while ago. But she was just an amazing, wonderful agent who sort of said, yes, I saw you, and, you'd be great at all these principal roles. If you want to cover, it's fine. But she said, it's, you have that. There is growing up to do and there is development to do, but I think you'd be really good. And she supported me until she passed away, and she was a very, very great agent. So that's how it started.
The beautiful thing, that's the second time that's happened in your story, is somebody else from the outside saying, I see this, I see you could go here.
Yeah.
And, we can all make our own stories, we can forge our own thing, but just to have that voice from outside saying, I see this in you. Mm-hmm. Did that feel like real encouragement? Was that confirming something you knew, or was that news this time?
I think it slightly confirms something. I think because I'd been on a few times for like Shenzi and Rafiki by far was the most spiritually connected, enthralling, scary thing I'd ever done in my entire life. It was it's such a unique role. It's like not compared to anything else. And I couldn't believe I was getting to do it. And I thought, wow, if I could, I probably could do this every night. And I was thinking about it. It was on top of Pride Rock, just like having a little Simba in your hand because you've got these little, sorry, spoiler, you've got your thumbs in this thing and you're making his body move. And I thought, I could do this track every night. I'd like that, I think. And then I thought, no, don't. So don't think about it. But yeah, I think then I knew I think I can. But again, I never thought to myself that being a principal was the goal. It was never the goal. I think the goal was just to keep doing well at serving the brief. What's the brief? Like, have I taken the fib out? Does this make sense? Is this authentic? When it came up to do a lead role, I was like, oh, this is great. But then I moved into a different phase of loneliness. I didn't realise how lonely it was. Because there's something about being in the ensemble, you feel like you're kind of in this tribe where it's like you kind of bounce off each other and all of that. And then there's this, again, track where sometimes you are alone and you don't encounter anybody else in the show in that village way, in that community way. Yeah. So, yeah, I got hit by the exhilaration of going, oh my gosh, I'm playing Chenzi. And then going, oh, but they're all over there having fun in scenes, and it's a show I'd just done. So I knew the laugh they were having there and the laugh they were having backstage and the jokes that were coming. And I thought, I'm not part of that anymore. This is really different. I didn't expect to feel like that. So a different type of loneliness and a different type of pressure started of it has to be exactly the same. And because then you get the creatives from America now coming and giving you notes on a completely different level. So I think I wasn't quite prepared for that. But I just, again, kept leaning on past Shenzis and past principals and going, how does this work? Like, is it always this lonely and is it always this hard? And what do you do when you get a lot of notes that kind of, that person said that, but then the other person from the creative team said, do something completely different. Like, how does that work? I'm thankful I've had the opportunity, even to this day, to ring people that can counsel and nurture and mentor you and champion you. Because even though the track felt lonely, I wasn't alone because I could ring other people that had done it. Yeah. So, but I didn't expect that. I didn't expect to feel lonely like that. That was weird.
And on the other side of the world at the same time.
Yeah.
Presumably accentuated
in
that.
A different time zone. Yeah. I was like, this is weird. And it was boiling as well. It was like, this is all so strange. And a different audience as well. Because we'd been used to this really like clapping, vibrant audience. It's Disney.
Right.
And then we got into this culture where not clapping is respectful. So just get to the end of these big numbers, like, just can't wait to be king. And it's silence. A whole auditorium is just silent. You're like, yeah, I don't know if this is working. So it was a lot of different feelings and things happening. But again, I can only credit it to people being able to reach out to people and have them support you. Because you can't do it alone. Because it can be very like, oh, I'm by myself. Why am I by myself? I want to be up there having a laugh with no pressure with them lot.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. That pressure, did you learn to hold that safely?
Initially, no.
Right.
I'll be honest. A lot of imposter syndrome. That's when it started of going, you haven't trained. This is why you're getting these notes. You don't understand. You're trying to do something that you're actually not equipped to do. You were blagging it. You know? But then I had to go, well, how could I have blagged it on the West End for all this time? Like, no, it can't be possible. But you do fight those voices like backwards and forwards. And I just promised myself that I wouldn't stop talking about it to family or friends. And also that I would just make sure I had enough strength to just do the next show. Go out there and just be honest and just be authentic and enjoy the next show. Because the pressure, it's just one of those things. Because again, the higher ups have a brief they want to fulfill. They want it to be the same all over the world. And they are going to give you notes. They are. Some that you're just like, what? Yeah. Can you make it bigger but really small? What? Can it be really dynamic but really quiet? And you're like, I don't even know what to, I don't even know what to do with this. I'll be honest. And sometimes I've gone, yeah, great, yeah, amazing. And just gone out and done the exact same thing. Because you get yourself in such knots. Yeah. I don't even know what they want.
And then they'll come back and I'll go, yeah, that was great.
That was amazing.
That was it.
And I'll go, so I've just always opted for honesty. I'm just like, is it authentic? Does it feel true? I'll just have a go at that. So, because you can get the imposter thing of going, I'm getting the same note every single day. What am I not doing? What am I not doing? But I did enjoy Taiwan. It taught me a lot. It really taught me a lot. And I enjoyed it. It was nice because they had physio on. They just sit in the building. So you could get physio all day, every day. And someone helping us vocally as well. So that, I think that support made you go, actually, I can enjoy this show.
Yeah.
And we had like minimal illness on the show because people were just cared for and felt really good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's really important.
Very important.
It is.
You need that.
It is. And that's learning how to handle that pressure. Has that stayed with you? Do you still have to mindfully look after it, or is it more?
Very mindfully have to look after it.
Right.
Because it could just creep in this really weird way. You're going, I'm really enjoying this. And then in the middle of a song, you could go, yeah, I know it's not going to come out like that. That's just going to be weird. That person's in tonight, or that person's in who played it. Or even sometimes when you're an alternate. This is just so weird. Even sometimes with Memphis being an alternate, you're constantly thinking, I've overheard conversations at box office. This is so bad. I went to box office just to get tickets for my mum to go, oh, it's, Wednesday afternoon and she's in town. She wants to come and watch the show. And I heard this woman at box office going, well, I've come all the way here and I want to see Beverly Knight. And I don't want to see some cover. I don't want to see blah, blah, blah. And you feel that thing like rising up in your tummy. Yeah. That you're like, oh, that's from someone. That's not nice. And I'll never forget the girl on box office said, well, you can have those opinions. And obviously we have Beverly Knight, we have Rachel John. They're both extraordinary. But, give the show a chance. Watch it. If you're not enjoying it in the interval, come back out and let me know. But we have really, really great performers here. And I think you should just enjoy the show and just see. And even though, yes, I was very happy about that, that actual feeling did not leave my body during that show. The tension I felt during that show, because again, it's now this other opinion from out there. You're going, no, I am good though. You've not even watched it.
Yeah.
You're
writing me off just because I'm not called.
Yeah. And then this weird thing came into my brain while I was in the middle of something hard in the show. I think I was singing Coloured Woman again, which was a great, I could just smash this record and go, Joe, whatever. I could use that as a channel. A thought came to me while I was in the middle of this song going, well, do you know what? If she's right and you're rubbish, then she's right. And that's okay. But if you're not, then she's going to have a completely different experience. So does it actually matter? And I was like, whoa, that is deep. That's not from me. That's from somewhere else. Because, and that rationale I've continued to have. That's from 2014. I've gone, do you know what? Yeah, I might be. You might come in and go, do you know what? You are not my preference, or I actually don't like you. But that doesn't, I can't absorb that pressure because that's not my fault. I can't. I may not be your preference. You may be absolutely right. But then if I'm not, and you've just seen a character and you've walked through the character story and not the name of the actor, then well done. We've all fulfilled the brief. But it is hard sometimes to shut that sound down and to hear the audience talking about you. And I would also say that sometimes the microphones are still on, so sometimes the audience are talking in the interval and our tannoys are on, and you hear these whole conversations in the interval going, oh no. I was like, turn it off. Oh, that wasn't very good, was it? I didn't really enjoy that. Or equally, I really did enjoy it. But again, it's I can't be responsible for that voices, because there's stuff as an audience member I watch that go, yeah, I didn't really enjoy that. And that's okay. Yeah. It's just not to be unkind and maybe talk a bit quieter at box office. Sorry, because you don't know who's listening.
For this very reason, whenever I go and see something now, and if I'm going with somebody, I will not talk about the show in any way until I get home. Because even if we're all entitled to opinions, that's absolutely fine. If I enjoyed something, great. If I didn't enjoy something, fine. But it's those little, if you're sitting next to somebody on a chair or, wherever, things can be overheard. It's a public space. And I think it's so important. You're entitled to those opinions.
Yes.
I think everybody is, and that is fair enough. Maybe do it in an environment where other people aren't going to hear that and have that be impacted upon them. So we just a blanket rule now. We will not discuss a show until we're at home. So,
which I get,
But equally, to the antithesis of everything you've just said, I recently encountered somebody on Instagram who will go to like every single Phantom show. If somebody's on as cover, if somebody's on as this, if somebody's on as this, she will go to every single show and see every possible iteration. And it is the most wonderful thing.
I love that.
And it's just like, that's how you do theatre. I think it's so wonderful.
Yeah, because I had to
There are people out there.
There are people out there. And I think I had to keep telling myself, like, especially when you cover, especially if you're an alternate and all those things, I had to really say, I don't cover this other actor, I cover a character. And I think that distinguishing that, I think is really, really important. Because equally then I get the opportunity to, and the other actor gets the opportunity to shine that character as authentically as they can and do. And it will be different. Like, we are hired because we have unique traits. We're not the same. We're trying to fulfill this brief. And I think celebrating how unique that is, whether someone's named or not, I had to just go, you cover a character. It's not a person. You cover a character and keep breathing into that character because you owe it. You owe it for whatever amount of time you're there. So without the audience, without that support, I mean, this is what we need. We need people to keep coming and seeing shows and, you know, coming and supporting us. That's what we want. And we love the audience. I'm not bashing the audience. I just want to say, because I am also an audience member. Yeah. So I love the audience and I love when they come and see us because, you know, shows without masks is a wonderful thing because we all went through the mask shows and they were very hard because you're just learning to smile with your eyes or we're like, do they like it? Do they not? So seeing faces now and hearing people is it's beautiful. We never, ever, ever want to go back. This is a lovely interactive space to be in.
It's precious.
Yes, it is precious. Yeah.
We'll get back to the episode in just a minute, but I just wanted to quickly say that 75% of you are not subscribed to this channel. So if you could, hit that subscribe button, like this video, and ding the bell for notifications so you never miss an episode in the future.
You mentioned lockdown. You and I had chats in lockdown.
We did.
And I know that you, like many others, struggled with that sort of sense of, who am I if I'm not doing this? And I wondered if you'd mind talking about that a bit.
No, I don't mind at all. It was really very hard. And that's why I was so grateful to be able to reach out to you in that time. It's like so much is linked to, like, now. We are constantly affirmed, like, yes, you got the job. Yes, you can have this audition. Yes, your self-tape was okay. 55 takes later. So I think you're so aware of yourself that the no's or the silence, it was so still, it was so quiet and nobody was saying, could you come and sing this thing or do this thing? I really, really struggled with it because I just didn't know, who am I if I'm not doing this thing? But I was very happy to speak to you. And also I felt a real peace about being allowed to kind of sit in it for a minute. I think I was just trying to, like, just feel better. Like, don't acknowledge the emotions or it's fine. It will all pass because we were all going, it'll be over soon. It'll be over in a month. It'll be over in it really wasn't. It really wasn't over in a month. And I think the joy that I got out of that was going, well, you know, I can't really do anything right now. Rang another friend at church and he was kind of like, because he gigs a lot, so he drums a lot, and he's like, oh, I just want to play something. I'm like, we're not. And he's like, well, the church is empty, everyone's free, there's no, all these musicians are doing absolutely nothing. And I was like, well, maybe we should just go down to church and sing something. And that then turned into, let's do some hymns and then that kind of turned into, let's do an album. So it was just out of that, what do? I was like, how do I add my voice to this? I still want my voice. And I'm still valued. Even in a space when I'm not singing, I still can create something that probably for me felt like the most, like, honest thing. Because it was just like, this is where I'm back at home. I can sing here and no one's judging me and I can feel like I'm myself again. Because it was hard. It was really hard. And most days were unpleasant. I was like, I've woken up, I've had a shower. I'm not really sure what for because there's nowhere to go. No, do you know what I mean? There's no appointment. There's no popping out. There's no connecting. And it was the lack of community. and connectivity that I found quite hard, because we didn't have church, so you didn't have another community, because I have theatre and I have church, but both were gone. And I was like, I don't know, what do I do with this? So again, I reach out.
So interesting that at the beginning of your career, you come in as a fully fledged person who's, pursuing being a secretary, a PA, whatever, and I could do this thing. But then, nearly 20 years later, that's become the thing that defines you. So that if that goes away, you think, what part of me is left? And yet you started with it as an adjunct. I think that speaks a lot to how much you have grown through theatre and grown through your career in terms of it sort of seeping in and taking up the whole of you. Yeah, does that make sense?
It does make sense. And I didn't even really stand back and think about it like that, because I think if I hadn't gone to that audition and if I hadn't even started, I would have just been, I want to say, the most incredible English teacher ever. I would have been great, right? My students would have loved me. And this would never have even, singing would just have been a hobby. I'd have probably ended up doing BV somewhere or gigging somewhere and really enjoying the thing. I don't think it would have even, I don't feel like I would have missed something. Whereas now I stand in my life going, I don't know, the last 20 years, so many people I've met and people that I've travelled, all of these things, you're right, it feels like a real life source. But also I get a lot of joy now at this point just talking to people about theatre or in theatre, like students and stuff like that. I get real joy from that now, because it's like sharing this information, like what is a track? Make sure you know your props, get an accountant. Those sorts of things now is still part of, I feel so rooted in musical theatre. And I think because it was healing for me, and it unleashes confidence in me that I just didn't even know was there. I didn't even know.
That's so amazing.
Yeah. It's incredible. Go on. I was just going to pick that up.
Your album.
I did. Do I do a shameless plug?
Oh, it's not shameless.
Is it not shameless?
Talk about this.
I will talk about this. So during lockdown, I'd always said at some point, I'd love to do an album, but it felt like an out there thing. Yeah. Money and time. Because you're always in a show and you think, I've got to preserve my voice, so I don't really want to do anything too much. You're really being cautious. And then again, lockdown came up, and I'd always talk to my friend Steph, and he was like, well, if you could, what do you want to do? And I was like, I just want to do hymns. That's what I'd love to do. And we kind of just left it. And then I ended up talking to Ramin, because we'd done Songs for a New World during lockdown. And it was on his podcast, and he was kind of like, if you could do anything today, what would it be? And I was like, listen, I'd do a hymns album. That's what I would do. I would do that. I'd do all the hymns, because it reminds me of my great gran. It reminds me of my nan who passed away last year, my mum. I've grown up with these songs. And also I feel like Songs of Praise is quintessentially British. And you think about that on a Sunday, all those things that, and football, I love football. And I used to go to the stadiums and go, these are hymns. You lot have just changed the lyrics, but these are hymns. These are the same. Guide Me, O Thou Great Jehovah is the same tune. So it's all the songs and football grounds are hymns. This is crazy. So I put down the phone to Ramin after this podcast, and he rang me back and he was like, I can't stop thinking about what you said about doing this album. I think we should just do it. Sorry, what? I was like, well, Ramin, I said, I'll be really honest with you. I ain't got the time or the money. And he was like, right, put something together and tell me what you think. So I got back on the phone to Steph going, if we needed to do this, could we? And he was like, yeah, I could. I've got the guys, everyone's sitting about. We'll work out a budget, work out what we need to do. And within 4 weeks, we were at the church that my mum first came to when she came here in the 70s. Oh, wow. They gave us the church. Thank you, New Testament Assembly in Tooting. The bishop gave us the church. A very, very lovely mates rate. Gave us the church. Ramin got some people to film. We've got 3 backing singers. No, 4 backing singers.
They are cracking backing singers.
Aren't they, though?
They are cracking.
Who now sing for Stormzy and do that. They do all the things. So I'm just so honoured. I'm I got them. They wanted to do it. They were like, of course we want to do it. I was like, really? I was like, yeah. So of course it was beautiful, because I'd said, I want it live. I'm not going in the studio. I don't care if there's air in it or there's dodgy notes. I'm not bothered. They were like, are you sure? Yes. I want to do 1 take of each. Let's just do it. Because I want to feel like I'm at church, and I want to feel like that's what I would do. I wouldn't do I won't record it for perfection. It isn't about perfection. It's just an exhalation. That's how I always saw singing at church. And so this little friend popped up and we got all these songs together. I mean, the list went from probably about 40 hymns to 9-ish, but I've thrown in a few others. And then we just wanted to we wanted to do little things. I've done How Great Thou Art as a jazz version. I just wanted to put it on its head. And
I love that. I love how many different, we were just saying this morning, there's so many different genres in there. It's delightful. Absolutely delightful.
And then I'm a massive fan of Dolly Parton. So I was just like, we could country it up a little bit as well. Do you know what I mean? I found a friend, we could country it a bit. And we just did what we wanted because no one said you can't. Yeah. And then it sat on a computer for a year. Ramin was like, he was going away and we were doing different things. And then he played it to a friend, Neil, at Westway Records, and then they were like, we want to do this. So they got behind it, and that was that. And then, it all got a bit strange when I got a phone call saying, Dionne Warwick's heard it and would like you to support her, be a supporting artist on her tour. What? I was like, when you're trying to act cool, I was like, the Dionne Warwick.
You get the best phone calls.
I really do, innit? I do. And it was bizarre because, again, I said, well, what does she want me to sing? Because it's gospel and it's very different from what she's doing. I know she's in a soul space, but no, she wants these songs. And she was very specific. She wanted Blessed Assurance, which was the single we released, and she wanted How Great Thou Art. She wants those two. So anything else. So I had to come together with this set list. So we just tried to get it as soulful as possible. A bit of, Emily Sunday. We just tried to get it soulful and lovely and had the gospel in there. And it was so interesting for me because this became so much more than the album that people, again, are support eyes. So I knew people were getting up, they're walking out, they didn't want it. It was so funny. People were going, we want to see Dionne, we don't want to see her, sort of thing. Again, because I was on for 20 minutes or 30 minutes, and then we had an interval, and then Dionne came on and did an hour and a half. But the amount of people in the interval that came and went, this was my grand's favourite hymn. So I'm not religious. My grand's favourite hymn. This was my mum's. This reminded me of my mum. This is what we sang at her funeral. So I was like, whoa. So I'd gone full circle. I'd gone back to the songs that I'd heard my mum singing and had been so enriching for me that were now. Other people had gone, I haven't heard that song. Like, why would you do jazz on it? And what does that mean? And they're so special. And that's when I realised how British hymns are. That's when I realised I was like, well, yeah, they're part of us and part of... Someone was like, we used to sing that in assembly. And I was like, bring back singing in assembly, guys.
Yes,
come on. Bring it back. Because it opened something up in you. And these songs were like really nostalgic. So it was lovely that they then said, you can have a CD. I was like, I'm old school. I want something on hold.
Yeah.
So the next stage now is to try and get it on vinyl. That would make my life divine.
Yes.
Oh.
But I heard it's crazy expensive, so I'm just waiting. So I'm just shamelessly plugging and asking for it on
there.
vinyl. But yeah,
that would be really
and obviously
special.
digitally, people can do digital things on Spotify and all those things. But this was very special for me because I sang what I wanted. I really enjoyed it.
I wanted to ask you about that.
Yes.
You can hear it. I think it's I Will Sing the Wondrous Story.
Yeah, it's right down the end. That's with no other band or accompaniment or anything. It's just ease.
And your voice, the truthfulness in your voice, the connection to the words, but without a character being in between you and them.
Yes.
I really wanted to ask you about that because I can feel it through my ears. And I just wondered how that felt and whether you were aware of that shedding of character or...
I just did what you were not allowed to do in musical theatre. I just closed my eyes and let it happen. And that's the thing that church kind of affords you because no one goes, open your eyes. You don't have to. Because actually, who am I singing to and what am I singing about? And I think I just went back to that. That's my safe space. And I remember even starting in theatre and people going, you need to open your eyes. Stop singing with your eyes closed. But I developed this safe space because you can just sing one-on-one, which is why I called the album From My Lips to God's Ear, because it was just... I'm just singing to you. Like, it doesn't matter. No one else needs to hear it. It's a very intimate thing. So I just closed my eyes and just went, let the sound be released. Let it be whatever it is, you know, and it was right at the end of the day. We started at 1:00, we finished about 6:30, 7 in the evening because all of these sound laws and the environmental health. So we had to kind of really wrap up. So we said, well, we'll do all of the acoustic ones at the end because then the neighbours won't complain. I just closed my eyes. I don't even know if the lyrics are right. And I just thought, but it doesn't matter because I just felt my whole being like it was just unfurled. There was no other way. I just felt like my wings were open and there was nobody going, you can't. And it just felt like a full extension of my breath. I just didn't think, and technically now I'll put it here and where's the soft palate and are you doing the thing? It just, that release was just, it just felt effortless for me and it felt so connected. Because again, a character then suggests what you're going to do and you're pacing yourself for a show. So sometimes the full freedom doesn't feel there because you're like, this is only song 4. This is minute 20 of the show. I need to still pace myself like a marathon runner, but not for this. Just sang and I was like, if the air's in there or the mistakes are in there, then someone will enjoy it. So I'll enjoy it.
It's a wonderful thing to hear you say that because I think you seeing it that way, you seeing it as a gift to be able to just, well, I'll just let it land where it is, and that will be sort of the gift to me to sing like that, could easily be seen as, oh my God, I'm going to be so vulnerable in this moment, and actually let's get in a studio and do a bunch of takes. Like, I think that's a wonderful thing that you've been able to experience that acceptance of your own voice and just sit with it. Be with it, and
because we talked about this for years in the room with you, like constantly listening, just being in a vocal session with you and listening. But you're like, no, I'm listening. You just and not feeling free. And I went through years of not listening to myself. So all of these things you're doing, you're singing at this thing and that thing, and they go, oh, do you want to listen back? No, just do what you want. I couldn't listen to myself because I just kept thinking, that shouldn't sound as raspy. That should have been more. The diction wasn't right there. Blah 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 blah. And I think definitely the pandemic gave me that release of going, no, it's actually a gift, and it's not. And actually, when it's just open, it actually doesn't matter. I don't even.
Do you think it is possible to achieve some of that acceptance and freedom with it within the context of a show?
I think so. I think I'm going to say yes.
Yes, I'm so glad you said that.
It is. I think it is. But I think part of the acceptance is getting back to the enjoyment. I think aside from that, I started thinking, actually, Rach, you've got this gift that actually gives other people a really lovely feeling. And that's okay. Like, even when you don't think, sometimes I've realised you get to stage door and you think that's the worst show I've ever had in my entire life. Like, I'm not coming back in tomorrow because it was terrible. So I felt like I couldn't control the voice and I was anxious and all of that. And there's always someone that goes, that's the best thing I've ever heard. And you're like, wait, what? That doesn't make sense. So I went, hold on, wait. Someone likes it. Even on your day when you're like, that was 55%. That's someone else's 100%. So I can always show up and be honest and be authentic and let it be open and go, here is my gift. And that's why I keep saying now, I'm serving the audience this gift. I am warm, I have slept, I've done everything I need to do, and I would love you to enjoy this, even in the audition room, because I find the audition room very hard to accept, because I'm like, you've given me terrible acoustics and it's 10:05. Why are you doing this? Why are you doing this to me?
Yeah.
And now I just have to go in and go, this is like a really odd blind date. You might like me, you might want me back, but I've come with this gift. I'd like to get a second date. I might not, but here you go. Here you go at 10:05. Please want me. But if you don't, that's okay, because I actually just came with what I had. And if what I have is enough, then that's okay. So I'm not saying I'm all the way there. I'm keeping this narrative in my mind that I am enough. I am enough, and it is enough on the day, even if it isn't technically clean.
Yeah.
I'm still here, and I deserve to share what I have with the world. Like I say, not every day feels like that, but I'm going to I'm going to slowly let that drip in and enjoy it, because it goes so quickly, and you go, I wish I'd enjoyed that. I wish I hadn't worried about that one note in that one song. because actually there's enjoyment to be had. So I'm nearly there, I think. But thank you, Claire.
Beautiful thing to hear,
It
and a beautiful thing for you to share as well.
Absolutely.
Thank you so
Wow.
much for sharing.
Thanks.
Your
We could have been
story.
here
It's amazing.
all
Oh,
day.
absolutely.
We're not quite done with you because
You're not done with
we're
me?
not quite done because we have
Oh.
2 questions that we always ask.
Okay.
And one is we call the 5-minute call. What do you do at the 5-minute call?
I can't say that
Okay.
because no one will ever hire me again.
My God, my mind is boggling.
No, I'm not.
right?
No, do you know why? Because I'm never ready. Sorry, that's why. I'm normally in a tracksuit with no makeup on, just sitting there. I don't like. Right at the 5-minute call. No, just being really serious now. At the 5-minute call, I should be fully dressed and downstairs, but a lot of the time, I am just on the cusp of being ready, and my face is normally bare, and so I'm very, very sorry. I do like to have a little prayer before I go downstairs, just to kind of centre myself and settle myself as to make sure the audience are having a lovely time. But on a good day, I am dressed and ready to have a little prayer and make sure my water's set up and my tea is set up wherever I need it. I try not to rush downstairs and get in trouble with anyone. Ends up in the show report for being late. But yeah, it just comes around so quickly. That's why. So that's my excuse. The time's wrong. Yes.
Yeah, the time's
The
wrong.
clock's wrong. It's not me.
goes too
But
fast.
yes, normally a little prayer and then just glide downstairs casually.
Amazing.
I try not to be too late.
I love it.
Sorry, everyone. Sorry,
love
stage
it.
management. Yeah.
So we have a second little closing tradition on this
Okay.
podcast. We get the guest of the previous episode to write a question for the next person, and it is completely blind. So nobody knows what the question is
Okay.
until this moment. So your question...
Oh, we should have had a drum roll because I've gone all sweaty now.
This is
Uh-oh.
the perfect question for you.
Oh, okay.
If you could meet your younger self now, what would you encourage them to not be afraid of?
That's the best question. Salute to whoever wrote that. If I could meet my younger self now, what would I say not to be afraid of? Yeah. Do not be afraid of the next step. Don't be afraid. Just put one foot down and it will be okay. It will be okay. Don't be afraid of the next step, because sometimes it's taking the next step that you think, can't do the next thing, can't, this is it's too much. So I'd say do it. Take the next step. And if you fell forward, you'll get back up, but that's it. I wish someone had told me that. Yeah.
Beautiful.
My mum's gardener is a wonderful man, and he has always said to me, the hardest part of any journey is the first step.
Yeah.
And that stays with me all the time.
Yeah.
It's great advice. And failing forward, I'm carrying
I
that
love
on with
this,
me as
yeah.
well. That's
Yeah,
great.
yeah,
I love it as
That's
well.
really great.
Yeah. So I've had the loveliest day. I'm just so grateful. I just feel
Thank
like
you.
Thank
my
you
soul
so
is
much
full.
for coming and
I feel
joining
so
us.
good. Yeah, thank you. Thanks for having me.
We really hope you enjoyed this episode of the 5-Minute Call. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button, like this video, and ring the bell for notifications. Your support really helps us bring you more amazing stories.
If you are or have been affected by any of the topics discussed in today's episode, please see the show notes below for some helpful resources.